guys all know, or hopefully remember, normally we do these town halls in person, and it's so much nicer because I can see everyone's faces and we can see each other's faces and ask questions. And here tonight, it really is about, I'm going to provide some information just for things that are going on in the city to you, but I would love to hear questions and comments from you as we go along. And so you'll all find at the bottom of your screen a raise hand button where you can raise your hand, and then I can unmute people and we can all talk and have an interactive discussion. I have a number of topics that I'm going to go through. And so, you know, if you're just waiting for a topic to come up, that's just totally fine. And then at the end, we'll just have open dialogue for anything you might want to know about or ask me, or comments you would like to provide for me that I didn't cover in the slides. And then the last thing I just want to remind everyone is not everyone loves talking in a public forum like this. And that's totally fine. If you think of something that comes up on a slide and you'd like to send me an email, the council email is available at the end, or my email is ashleys@louisvilleco.gov. So you can always email me or call me, and my name and number is in the newsletter as well and online. So those things are all fine too if you don't feel comfortable raising your hand tonight, but let's get started. All right, hopefully my slide advanced, and I just want to start off telling people about some economic vitality news. So we survey folks, and filling these vacant spaces and addressing retail vacancy is really important to the community. And so I just, on this slide, wanted to provide some exciting updates. So you can see Louisville Cyclery, they have their logo on there. They got a new home base. So they've been in town for decades and decades over on one property that's about to be redeveloped. And so they actually moved into what was the Animal House Veterinary Clinic. So now they have really great visibility and good access to trails and community. So go check out the Cyclery in their new hometown. One I know the whole council is really excited about is finally filling out the King Super Shopping Center. So Planet Fitness went into the vacant Hobby Lobby, and the other half, we finally got our Ace Hardware in there. So they're open and ready for business. So there's some more opportunities to be able to shop without having to go across town if you live on that side of town for hardware things. You might not have heard of Umoja Biopharma yet, but I hope that they're successful in what they're trying to do. So they have some really unique biopharma technology that they're trying to use to cure cancer in a really unique and novel different way. And they are starting their manufacturing plant up right here in Louisville. So we all hope that we get to read about their successes in the years to come, but it's pretty exciting and eventful that they've done the groundbreaking for their facility here. In the old Tokyo Joe's space, I've gotten a lot of questions about what's happening over there. There's going to be a new fast casual restaurant from a local group, a local couple from here in Louisville, and they're starting, it's like a rotisserie chicken fast casual restaurant. So check it out. It's called Rotary, and it should be coming soon. And that pink building down in the bottom right there, you'll be excited to check out. It's called Archer and Ram, and it's on Main Street, and they have all kinds of boutique goods and gifts and clothes, and it's really cool. So check it out. I've gotten a lot of emails from you all about Cinnabar. I just want to let everyone know movie theaters across the entire country have had a really tough time during the pandemic, as has hotels and lodging. And ours are no different here in Louisville, but our movie theater is back open. And so if you have been dying to go to a movie, they're open again. And, you know, a lot of us, if not all of us here in Louisville are vaccinated, and you can go ahead and wear your mask in there and feel real comfortable. They have food and beverage, so you can obviously take your mask off while you're eating, but Cinnabar's back open and they've got the latest and greatest movies. So you can check that out. And then on the far right, you'll see our shopping center that used to have Safeway and then Alfalfa's has gotten a facelift. So if you haven't been over there, walk or bike on over and check it out. It's looking beautiful. It hasn't looked as good as it does since I lived in town. So I hope everybody has a chance to not only go check out the nice facade improvements, but to check out the stores that are in there as well. And the one that everybody's always asking about, of course, is the Old Sam's Club, or 550 South McCaslin. And so just an update on that. Ascent Community Church owns the building, and they're in there operating their church. They're meeting and doing all their things in there, but they do still have plans to redevelop so that they can move into sort of half of the space and have community, you know, performance space and things like that. And then the other half would be retail. It's a really slow process because they have to work with all of the neighbors in that shopping center to amend the covenants, and they are working on it, but it's a contract, and it's everyone has their own legal right to all of the parts of the contract, and they have to reach agreement to be able to move forward. So it is taking some time, but it is moving in a positive direction. So next, I hope everybody had a chance to participate in Bike, Walk, and Wheel Week. It was last week, I think, and it was really great. We had a fantastic bike to work day here in Louisville. I think we had the most bike to work stations per capita of anywhere in the entire Denver metro region. So there were 4 registered stations, but one of the stations was broken into 3 different stations. So it's really fantastic. And you can see all the different people who participated: E-Bike of Colorado, Pearl Zumi, Paul's Coffee over there, and the Cycle Bar. Also, the City of Louisville participated. But I want to give a special thanks to the Louisville Cyclery. They actually provided the grand prize, which was a bicycle for the whole Denver metro region. And so that was really special to have the grand prize donor coming from our city. And it was just really great to see a lot of people who were working from home still biked to work. It was really great to see everybody out there with all their gear on. Another part of Bike, Walk, and Wheel Week was the electric ride and drive event. And it was fantastic. About half a dozen to a dozen electric vehicles were available right by the library for people to sit in and check out, look at the different models, talk to the owners, and determine if an electric vehicle might be right for them. We learned about charging. There's a new program where Excel Energy will put a level 2 charger at your home for $13 a month for 10 years, and then you own it outright. So there's new things coming for charging, new programs for getting in electric vehicles, and both of our bike shops brought bicycles and electric bikes to the event for people to test drive. It was awesome. And you'll see in the picture on the bottom right, 2 of our Louisville Sustainability Advisory Board members were there at the meeting, and they both wore a very similar shirt, so I had to get a picture with them. It was great. So thanks to everybody for all the effort on Bike, Walk, and Wheel Week. I'm going to shift gears a little bit. And like I said at the beginning, people can raise hands throughout. If there's something on the topic you see you want to ask or talk about, feel free to do that. So I'm shifting into water news. And we have some new things coming. So water meters are in everybody's house, everybody's business. We all have a meter, and they only have a fixed time that they have a useful life. And they're coming due for replacement. And I'm excited to be able to announce that when we replace them, it'll be with a new type of meter that's a smart meter. And so what it'll allow is for you to get an app for your phone or for your email or however you like to look at things. And you'll be able to more closely monitor real time your water use. So you can set up alerts, when you get to different tiers, or alerts if your water's running and it shouldn't be. So that'll be really cool. Residents all around town are currently testing the meters. And if you would like to test one and be a test person, please go ahead and email me or email the public works staff. We do have a few slots left open if you'd like to help us test them. Once they're all debugged and tested out, they'll be rolled out community-wide. This is one of those things that we want to get it right. And so it's not so much like we're trying to roll it out as fast as we can, but we want to make sure we test them. We know they're all working exactly as we expect, that the whole billing is set up right. And once we have that all done, we'll start rolling them out over a period to everyone in the community. But it's pretty exciting, so look out for that in the next couple of years. But if you would like to help us test them, let me know. We also have some free and discounted opportunities for water conservation you guys might want to be alerted to. We have discounted garden in a box. A lot of community members have taken advantage of that, where they can take out sod in their front yard or grass in their front yard and replace it with flowers and landscaping. And we have those available at a discounted price. We also have 2 free programs. One is called Slow the Flow, and one is called Drop Counter. The Slow the Flow sprinkler inspection program, we have people come out and they measure your sprinkler system to make sure that it's operating properly and that you're not overwatering. It's a free program, and you also get some additional weather technology and some reporting information for your sprinkler. The Drop Counter program is an application that you can test for your smartphone, and it helps you understand your water use better. So both of those are pretty cool. And just down here at the bottom of the page, it kind of shows you how it relates to our sustainability action plan and the goals that have been set forth for us by the Sustainability Advisory Board and the City Council. And I'm really excited. I have my email up in the back, and I already got a take from one of you to try the new smart meter program. So thank you, that's awesome. And then I have presented this slide before, but there's a little bit of an update. So I just wanted to remind everyone on water sustainability. One thing that our community is part of is building a new reservoir, and it's right directly adjacent to our existing reservoir. So we have two very separate sources of water. One is the Colorado River, and one is from this El Dorado Springs area, and they go to our two different water plants. Coming from that Colorado River location, it actually goes through the Continental Divide and then over into Carter Lake now, where water's stored. But all of the Front Range doesn't have enough capacity in these reservoirs to store the water. And so communities like ours, Broomfield, Lafayette, Erie, have all partnered together, even some of the people in Larimer County, to build this additional storage. And it's not for new water rights, it's for water rights we already own, but that we currently have no place to store or use. So this will enable us to have better resiliency with the unknowns of climate change and the impacts of drought. So the exciting update to that is that there was a groundbreaking. So here, this is all of our communities that were involved in this, and there's one technical person and one elected person from each community here. So you can see just how big of an effort it is and how many different organizations are working together collaboratively on this. And then just the community's elected officials, like the mayors or county commissioners that are involved, are in this picture doing the groundbreaking. So it's pretty exciting. And you can see this pretty area. This is the bottom of the lake that we're standing in. And this natural feature and the geologic features form most of the bed of the reservoir. And then there'll be an earthen dam across sort of right where we're standing. So it's a pretty monumental project, and it will help with our resiliency and enable future generations to be able to have a firmed water supply that they can count on. If you want to see rocks from the bottom of this reservoir in City Hall in our showcase, there's a little bottle that I got and filled with rocks from the bottom of this area and put it in the showcase. So you can check those out next time you're upstairs in City Hall by the showcase. Moving on to noise, I had this slide in a lot of different ways, and I decided to just call it noise. And so we'll be here for a little while. So I get complaints from folks about noise all the time. And it really does bother people, and it's all kinds of noise. So it's something we should all be aware of with our neighbors and our community members. But if there is loud noise that you were really concerned about, if there's like, you know, a huge party going on that you can't tell where it's coming from, or just like a car alarm that won't stop going off, dogs barking, some kind of noise that's a nuisance, you can call the non-emergency number, which is 303-441-4444, and report a nuisance. You don't have to know whether or not it's too loud, too quiet. If you know it's a nuisance to you, you can go ahead and report it. And then the officers will determine if it is a violation of our noise ordinance. So if you ever have a nuisance, go ahead and report it. There's other noise people tell us about a lot, and that's from the airport. And so we have been working for a few years collaboratively with Superior to try to address the airport noise issues. And the step that we're on currently is we are participants in a community noise roundtable. So most of you know this. I see a lot of familiar names, and you guys are all super well informed, but this is a roundtable that allows people to talk about the airport issues, and then the FAA, through all the communities collaborating, can come up with new routes for airplanes to fly. And so it looks like we have some conversation on this topic. So I am going to ask Marianne if she would like to add something in or ask a question. Marianne.
Okay, got it?
Yes.
You know, actually it was on water.
Oh,
and
great.
I'm sorry, I waited too long because you kept bringing on more slides and I wasn't sure you're done. It's kind of a quick question though. When we obtained additional water rights back in, what was it, 1993 or 94, the comment was, this is all the water Louisville will ever need. Well, given the growth that we've had, particularly with multifamily housing with a lot more people than was probably originally projected, and with the growth of the new industrial development site that we're going to have, is that still true? Have we gone back and looked at those projections, and we're still in good shape as far as the volume of water that we've got water rights for?
we're in good shape and we have a good plan, but we do not have all the water rights we need. So you have kind of a multi-layered question. So we do have a strategy that includes acquiring additional water rights. And I don't want to get too much into the detail of it because you don't really want to advertise your water purchasing strategy at large, because then it gets much more expensive. But we do have a strategy that includes additional water.
Okay, thanks.
And we do have online a very transparent, publicly facing document that shows how much water we have and need, and a plan. But part of why we need more water is the growth, and you're spot on. And that's been identified as something that we need. And we have increased the prices of our water tap over time to keep up with the price of the water market. So part of the water tap, which is the water connection fee into the city, is for the physical infrastructure, like the pipes and the water treatment and the wastewater. And part of the fee is for water rights. And we literally adjust that every year because the cost of water has been going up exponentially. And so if you look at our water tap rates, they appear quite high when you look at them, but then when you go look at the market for water, that is the cost. So we have adjusted those over time so that we'll be able to purchase new water as people come online. And there is a place you can purchase water still. I don't know how long that will last, but it is just very expensive right now and very competitive.
Okay, excellent. And where would I find that study? Would it be under Public Works somewhere?
Yes, but I'll just email it to you.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Sure thing. Just noting it down. And I'm just going to put your hand down so that I know that you had a chance. Okay, great. And so I'll go back to where we were on noise. And thank you very much for kicking this off, Marianne, with the interactive part. It's much more fun to do a town hall with people talk and ask questions. So the airport community round noise table is what I was talking about. So that's this FAA approved process. And if we get consensus from the group, we can make progress to address the patterns that the flights take. And just want to give a special thank you to one of our residents, Michael, who has been collecting data in a voluntary basis and making these infographics for us and these maps. It's been really useful for us to be able to convey to the other communities how much traffic is flying over our community compared to the other areas. So you can see in this snapshot I took, it's just comparing our community to Arvada. So thank you to Michael. And it looks like Maxine has a question or comment.
Hi, Ashley.
Hey, Maxine.
So I'm actually walking outside in our lovely open space as I'm listening to this. So it's kind of nice to be talking about all these things we're doing for our community when I'm getting to enjoy it. But anyway, so here's my concern about the airport and the airport noise. My concern is that while we are in good faith with our neighbors going through this process, this FCC mandated process, Paul Anslow and the airport are steamrolling ahead with their expansion plans and their development plans, and they're wanting to bring in bigger jet plans. So I'm just very concerned that I understand this is a kind of federally mandated process, but my concern is that it's not going to matter because by the time we're done, they're going to have gone ahead and done everything they want to do, and the volume of the airport is just going to keep increasing.
Yeah, I think that's a very rational and reasonable concern. The Jefferson County commissioners are very focused on business development, and they see the airport as an economic engine for their community. And so I think your concerns are totally legitimate and reasonable. So I think a multi-pronged approach is really what we need for the airport issues. And that's what we're working on. So I think that the noise roundtable is one piece. I think it's important that we do it and continue on it because that is what the FAA
you have to show that, right, you're participating in good faith and right, doing all that stuff. But
I so like, for example, I know the Rock Creek HOA is attempting litigation against the airport on their navigation agreement. I think there are other tactics we can take as well. And I look forward, Maxine is running unopposed for city council this fall. So I look forward to exploring some of those other ideas with you.
This is definitely going to be, this is going to be high on my priority list. I mean, I've been complaining about this for 10 years. 10 years ago, it was driving me nuts. So,
and it's not getting better.
No, it's not getting better. And I'm lucky because it's not as bad at my house as it is in other places. But anyway, and I'm just so excited and thankful that you guys got the first of the railroad quiet crossings happening. And I can't wait for the time when I can, you know, leave my window open and not at night and not hear have the railroad, the trains waking me up. So
thank you for that. That's the perfect segue. So from one thing that is really an ongoing problem that we are working at chipping away at, but it's not yet resolved, the roundtable to the train horns. The train horns is another one of those things where we're working with a partner agency that's very challenging. We've been working on the quiet zones the entire time I've been on city council, since 2013. And we are finally very, very close. So you've seen construction. We actually are working on Baseline, South Bowler Road, Griffith, Main Street, and Dillon Road crossings all simultaneously right now. You've seen different phases of the construction. So there's different contractors and there's different governmental agencies responsible for the different phases. And so you've seen people come and go in and out of there. And there is rhyme and reason to it. And so they just are working through all the phases. And once everything gets in place, there'll be a testing phase, and then they'll go quiet. So I am very encouraged by how far along we are. We're well into construction. I'm hoping the testing can start soonish. There very, very recently, this is sort of a, you know, insider point that I guess is not critical for everybody to know, but like there's a change order that's needed from the railroad side. They've just identified something, so we're signing that and processing that, and that's going along just fine. But this is coming very soon, and it's taken years and years. Now, I know some of you listening say, "Oh, I love the train horns. Why would you get rid of them?" And I just want to say, for every person who loves the train horn, there are probably 24 people who it drives absolutely insane. And so I do understand some people love it, and they're very sad to see it go. But just know if there is reason, then the train will still blow its horn. So from time to time, you will still hear a nice little sound, but people will be able to sleep at night and enjoy the peaceful quiet at their home. So overall, it's a great project. And one last thing on noise, and you can see this is all things noise on this slide. I just want to encourage everyone, if they have construction going on at their home, if you're doing a project, or if you have someone doing a project for you, to please ask that they adhere to our construction hours. Folks get really, really upset. Your neighbors get really, really upset if you start construction before 7 a.m. and if it goes on past 8 p.m. And I just want you to know I hear about it. So if everybody could help out with that, that would make a big difference for your neighbors. The next thing to talk about, shifting gears a little bit, is a council policy that we're working on right now. So this is a beautiful picture from the Life in Louisville concert. Richard took this picture, and the reason I put it up is because we've talked about dark sky lighting in our community for as long as I can remember, and I can think of different champions over time, but we're right now actually starting to figure out if we can write regulations around it. And so what the heck is dark sky lighting? So if you see this on the left hand side here, if you can see the light bulb and you can see the light coming out of it, it's not an exterior dark sky light. What a dark sky light is a light where you can't see the bulb. It's totally shielded, and all the light is pointed down so that there's not light going back up into the sky. It doesn't necessarily mean it's dim or unsafe, and I'm going to go into some of those things later, but it's really about pointing the light exactly where you want it, so that we can enjoy the sky, so that birds can migrate, bats can do things, all kinds of animals that are nocturnal can use the nighttime. So my slide's not advancing for some reason. There we go. First and foremost, I want to talk about the new street lighting and the street lighting program. So our street lights are at the end of their useful life, and we're working through replacing them with Excel Energy. So there are only a few fixtures you can pick from, and we have picked a fixture that is dark sky compliant and the dimmest one we can find, and the 3000 K color temperature. Now, all of those things are dark sky compliant. 3000 K is a good color for color temperature. The ones we did before were 4000 K for the Cobra headlights, and they were far too blue. So you should notice that the new lights are more yellow. Now, one pretty frustrating thing is that the first round of fixtures that went in this summer were not the correct specifications. So cities in the north part of town and neighborhoods in the north part of town and a couple in the south part of town accidentally had 100-watt equivalent fixtures put in instead of the proper 70-watt equivalent fixtures. So I apologize for that. The new fixtures are on order. Some of the fixtures have started to be replaced, so you'll start to see the new ones. The other piece of it is that if you look at the fixtures we have in place, we've been putting shields up on the fixtures, and it's taken place over the course of the last 40 years. So somebody would move in, they would say, hey, this is too bright, it's shining toward my house, and we would put up a shield on one side of the light that's there. The shields are not going in right when they're being installed, but we can put shields in. It's just going to take a little bit more time. So if you see a light that's wrong, just try to be patient and let us know. Just say, this is a light that needs a shield. And, I would appreciate it, and give the address, and then we'll follow up and make it right. Even when the 70-watt dark sky 3000K color temperature ones come in, they might still seem bright to people. They are LEDs. They have a different feel. They're the dimmest ones we can get. And they do keep it safe. They do make it so people can see to drive at night. But an LED just does have a different look and feel than those sodium lights that are out there now. So we've done our very best to get a fixture that is attractive and consistent across the city, that's cost effective, that lowers our energy use, and meets the standards that the community members have told us about. We got a lot of feedback from people on that Cobra Head program. And so we were very careful with how we spec'd this one out. And it is frustrating that what's gone on so far is not what we had hoped for. And so I just thank everybody for their patience on that. So this will take a couple years to happen, but it will be deployed across the entire city. So if you're one of the neighborhoods that's been done now and you notice that it is wrong, just be patient and thank you so much. And then if you need a shield, do please let me know. And I just want to remind everybody again, these are dark sky compliant. You'll see them, you'll think these are very bright, but they're what are called full cutoff fixtures, which means none of the light can go upward. So if you're migrating over this, if you're an animal that's flying at night, all of the light is pointed down and none of it is pointing up into the sky. So I just want to put some images up to kind of talk more about what the heck are you talking about, Ashley? And so these fixtures on the left-hand side are the discouraged or unacceptable types of fixtures. So that's where you can see the light bulb. If you can see the light bulb peeking down out of the fixture, so like look at this fixture here, and then the fixture on the right, they're very similar, but the way the bulb is situated in the fixture is different. And it's not just about the fixture, it's also about the color temperature and the brightness of the light in the fixture. But there's all different kinds of look and feel of acceptable dark sky lights. So if you, let's say you have a craftsman style at your home, you can get a craftsman style dark sky light. Let's say you have a modern home, you can get a modern style dark sky light. So there are different architectural types of lights that are there. You can get the LED type. You can get just the type you want. You just have to do a little bit of shopping around. So the picture on the right is something we've included in a community update. And I just wanted to show again that some people ask about safety and they're really concerned. What if I put these dark sky lights in? Will I be less safe? And a proper lighting is really what's important, not over lighting. And this is an example where with this light is not a dark sky light, it's a spotlight. And in the picture on the left, you can't even see the person really coming through the gate, but you can see if you just shield the camera from the light that you actually have a lot better visibility. So proper lighting is more important than over lighting. And our police department is doing crime prevention walkarounds on people's houses for free. And they can help talk to you about dark skylight and making sure you're lighting the right things and not over lighting or lighting the wrong things. So what's council working on? So these pictures on the right are these are all dark sky compliant fixtures that are for sale today. So all this technology exists and you can see they come in a lot of different looks and feels. And the policy questions we're wrestling with at council is like, how do we implement a dark sky policy citywide? How do we get the word out to community members? How can we provide incentives? If people have to switch out their light fixtures so they're dark sky compliant, it could cost a couple $100. So how do we incentivize it so the fixtures aren't so expensive for people? How do we have a long enough period of time so everybody can come into compliance? And should we require everybody to come into compliance? If we don't, will we ever have dark skies? If we do, will people be upset? And then just how do we enforce this? How can we make sure that it's neighborly and educational, but that we still have some kind of compliance so that you can see the stars one day? And then what's the role of retailers that sell the fixtures? So these are just types of questions. There's other questions council members have to ask, but this would be a good thing to weigh in with your city council member right now and let them know what you think, because we're talking about it. So we would love to hear from you. And this with enough community input, I think we can have a really good program here. Mary Ann. I think you can unmute yourself.
What is the, I'm sorry, I missed the slide. What's the Kelvin temperature you're setting at? 6,000?
3,000.
Oh, okay, great. That's the one that's good for wildlife. And I just wanted to make sure I'm positive you guys had done that, but I just missed it. Thank you.
Yeah, 3,000. And I wish it could be lower, but it can't. That is as low as we could get it. We are working for the downtown lights. We're also looking at what we can do because those are breaking and broken and need to be replaced as well. And they're not dark sky compliant currently. And we're trying to find a light that has, that contributes positively to the historic character of the area and is of a warm enough color temperature that it's not distracting. So stay tuned for that as well.
Well, good luck. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks for recognizing that it's not easy. I appreciate it. So please do talk to your council members. Let us know what you think. We'd love to hear from you. So next up in just some library news, I talk a lot at these about non-traditional library material. And I don't want people to forget that we have really great traditional library material. And Gloria, you're welcome to stay on camera, but I just want you to know that you are on camera in case you didn't know. That's Gloria Handyside. She is our communications expert at the city, and she does so much great work for everybody. So while Gloria's on, everybody wave and say thank you. Thank you, Gloria. So I just wanted to remind everybody we have all the great traditional material at the library, and I just don't talk about it very often because people know about it. So the news I want to update you on is that at the library, you can now check out a Wi-Fi mobile hotspot. So it's a 4G LTE mobile hotspot device. The battery lasts about 45 hours. If you're using it continuously, it's about 6.5 hours. And you can get 16 devices connected to it. So like if you have a Boy Scout troop in the park that needs to do some kind of thing, you know, and you want to be outside and socially distanced, you can go ahead and use this mobile hotspot, and then everybody can get on it. So it's a really great opportunity. You just check it out with your library card, go upstairs to the desk if you would like to use that. So any questions about that? And so sorry, I was just doing a little technical stuff with the Zoom here. Sorry about that delay. So the last couple of town halls, I've done a segment called Students Corner, and I want to encourage everybody, if you have a student or know a student that is doing something that's noteworthy in town, I would love to showcase them to the rest of the community. And so that's what this Students Corner is for. So I just would like to take a minute to showcase one of our Girl Scout troops in town. And we have 8 Girl Scouts that are up for Girl Scout Bronze Awards, which is an achievement you can earn by identifying a problem in your community, working with your team members to address it, and then applying the skills that they've learned by being Girl Scouts to solve the problem. So Ileana and Charlotte decided they wanted to clean up Louisville. You can see in the picture on the left that they went around the Arboretum and the rec center in all of those waterways, and they picked up trash. And you can see the bags and bags of trash that they got their friends to help them with. They learned about organization, making the world a better place, and communication, and they collected loads of trash and beautified the area. In the middle here, Paige, Julia, and Emily collected critical supplies for homeless people during COVID-19. They were kind of shocked that during COVID, they couldn't even meet together as a troop in person. And so they identified that they wanted to collect face masks, hand sanitizer, and Clorox wipes. They collected over 300 masks, over 50 bottles of hand sanitizer, and 11 packages of Clorox wipes to donate to the homeless shelter to help out with COVID-19. And they worked on communication, getting the word out, all kinds of things like that. And Tilly, Lydia, and Taylor are the group on the, they led the group on the right for the Bronze Award. In hygiene distribution, they collected feminine products for Sister Carmen and really worked on communication and other things. If I could just check in, maybe Mary Ann, you've been interactive. Can you still see my slides?
I can see them.
Okay, thanks, Maxine. Just wanted to make sure. There were a couple of technical things going on there, and I was just trying to make sure everything was going okay with the Zoom. So it should be looking good to everybody. And then I apologize, David, I just noticed you typed an open question in the question and answer. And this is, like I said at the beginning, the folly of all of these online platforms, too many things at once. But you asked a great question about that the water in Harper Lake, has the water in Harper Lake never been used? That water is currently being used. It's never been used up. So I don't know if that's your question. We do use that water to feed our North Water Treatment Plant, but we don't use it up, if that makes sense. Like we put water through there and we don't want to run it dry, but we definitely use that to store water before we treat it. And I don't know if you wanted to raise your hand and talk more about that, but sorry for missing that question when we were over on the water slide. Okay, so back to where we are. I just want to thank these students very, very much for their efforts and for letting us know about what they've done. And like I said at the beginning, if you have a student or if you know of a student that's doing something remarkable, I would love to share it with the community, whether it's in the newsletter or in a town hall or something like that. So thank you to all of these Girl Scouts, and I hope they all get their bronze award. One of our areas that we work on in the community is public safety and justice. And we have a new person that works for us called a crime prevention technician. And his name is Scott. And he will love to meet you all. He will come to block parties, meetings, community meetings, whatever. I know we're not doing that kind of thing as much as we used to right now with COVID-19, but still, if you have an outdoor block party or something like that, he'd be happy to come introduce himself. And he's doing these things called crime prevention checks. And so he'll walk around your house or your business for free and look for things like, sometimes in our community, we're really carefree. And we do some things that set ourselves up to not be as safe as we could. So like these no's that I have here is like, don't leave your keys in your ignition in the car on the street. And like, it's best if you don't leave your garage door open, or if you just leave like your purse and money sitting on the car seat. These are all things that really have been happening and do happen in our community, and they put people at more risk than they need to be. So just want to encourage everybody to be aware, not to be a target. And really one of the best things we can do is know and support our neighbors. So if you know who all your neighbors are, then you know if they're supposed to be there. So just make sure you know your neighbors. And over COVID-19, it's been really impressive to me how much people have supported their neighbors. The stories and the things that I've seen of people helping each other is really fantastic. And I saw Don Parcher on here, and he's really somebody I think of when I think of neighbors helping neighbors. He's really promoted a lot of good neighborliness. And so if you need help getting started, reach out to Don. He's a fellow community member and knows what he's talking about. Some of the things that your neighbors call and complain about, and I don't mean you, but I just mean everyone in the community, is some of these little code things, and we could really all help each other out by pitching in. So hedges that are overgrown onto the sidewalks or overgrown onto the alleys, that's something that just year after year, we always get complaints about. And so just making sure that you're trimmed up just right. And that when it snows, that you go ahead and clear your walkway so the kids can get to school and people can walk to the market or walk to get food at lunch or things like that. So snow shoveling and hedge trimming are two common complaints. And we also get a lot about things that you guys are all familiar with: dogs off leash, pet waste, things like that. So if everybody can just remember those good neighborly things, it goes a long way and makes a big difference. And also this last one here, park responsibly. If you're parked and you're blocking someone's driveway or blocking a crosswalk or something like that, parked with your car on the wrong side of the street, those are things that drive your neighbor absolutely insane. Just thought I'd pass that along. Okay, switching gears. So now get your calendars out or get your smartphones out with your calendars on them. The next set of slides is about things that are upcoming that you might want to know about. We are doing more Old Town overlay meetings. You could say, what are you talking about, Ashley? So since probably the thing that I can remember in my mind that first started this conversation off for my time in Louisville was the middle school being torn down. And so since that happened, there've been just so many iconic historic buildings that have been torn down and scraped down. And there's a lot of community conversation every time it happens. And it can just be a historic house that has a lot of architectural features that's loved by the neighborhood, or it can be an iconic business or like the school. And as this has escalated over time, people are getting more and more frustrated with the community character and what's going on in the area. So City Council has kicked off this effort where we are identifying features and scale and trees and things like that we can all identify that we want in the community, and look at the zoning and ensure that new things that get built match the character that people are hoping to have. And so, for example, when things are scraped, oftentimes we get complaints for the thing that's built that there aren't old trees, that trees were needlessly cut down, or that the building is too tall, or that it's too massive, or there's too much glass, or it's set back on the property in an odd way that makes it odd standing on the sidewalk and feeling it. So we want to hear from you, and we have been listening. And so there's a survey that's been going on, and the planning staff and the consultant will be telling us about the survey results on October 7th at 7 p.m. And there's still plenty of time for you to tell us what you think in this area, because we need a lot of feedback before we can go forward and make any changes to our current regulations. Maxine?
So I think that this is great, but I just want to add that I get that there's a ton of focus on the historic part of our community, which completely makes sense. But, you know, I live up on the Mesa, where most of the houses were built in the 70s. And we're seeing a lot of like blowouts and expansions. And there was recently a scrape in my neighborhood. And even those houses, some of those houses just look like they don't belong. And so, you know, I understand the focus on Old Town for sure, but I think it's something we need to think about kind of community-wide as the value of our property continues to increase. And we're going to see more and more of this, obviously. You know, my house has more than doubled since I moved here 16 years ago, or 15 years ago, which on one level makes me very happy because I'd like to be able to retire someday. But that character issue, it's not just the historic character of downtown, it's different neighborhoods. Even some of the ones from the 70s, you know, have a certain look and feel to them. And some of these new construction updates, whatever, really just they just look really out of place. So.
Thank you for that. That's really helpful feedback, Maxine. And so whenever you're changing zoning, it's really important that we get a lot of community feedback and that we go area by area. So like the zoning in this area is called, like this is in an overlay district called the Old Town Overlay. And so you can make a set of rules around that zoning district that's in the character that the community wants. And so we do have the ability to go area by area and look at the zoning and ensure that our standards, whether they're height or massing or coverage or floor area ratio, are appropriate for what the community wants. And we can absolutely do that on a bigger picture. It just makes, it takes prioritizing it, and then it takes ensuring that you're getting community feedback. And I just really want to encourage everyone to participate in this process and participate on October 7th, because without people participating, we won't get it right. And we always hear from people when the buildings are getting scraped and torn down, and it's very emotional and very hard, but we need you to weigh in now when it seems like nothing's happening, because this is how we can set the rules and put rules in place so we have control over things when things are happening. So I would just appreciate it if everybody who has interest in this participates. So mark your calendar. And next up is the American Rescue Plan Act funding on Monday, October 4th from 5 to 6 p.m. The county is hosting an event in the library. You'll need to go in through that library meeting room entrance, which, as everybody here knows, is there's the parking lot to the library that's just adjacent to it, and the entrance is just off of that parking lot on the side. So it's not the main entrance, which is over here on the front. And so please attend if you would like to weigh in on how you think that funding should be spent. I think the county got over $60 million, and they are taking community feedback right now at this time. And so please attend. If you have questions, call the number that you see there on the screen, 303-579-8253. And if you can't make it to the meeting, please do go on to their website and take the online survey. They would love to get feedback from all the different communities, and ours just hasn't weighed in very much yet. So I encourage everybody to do so. And just, I kind of rushed through that slide, but I'll just add, when you think about like the city, you think about historic preservation and open space and the arts and streets and water, wastewater, trash, policing, those types of things. Those are municipal services. When you think about the county, those are things like the sheriff's office, the jail, the courthouse, county open space, housing and human services, food benefits to the community. So like the SNAP benefits that people get, all kinds of the life safety benefits are passed through the county from the state, from health and human services. Public health is at the county. So it's good to think about what the county is responsible for in the context of governance, and then what kinds of things they offer if you can weigh in on those things, because they know they're good at those things. And then next up, mark your calendar. November 8th is the deadline for board and commission applications. So we have a number of openings, as we always do, and we really need help from all different kinds of people. So being a Louisville community member is all that's required, and we would love to hear from you and have participation from a variety of people of all different abilities and ages and backgrounds. So please apply if you have interest in any of these areas. There's all different kinds of things. Maybe you like sustainability, maybe you like parks, perhaps the library is your cup of tea. We need everybody's help. And so these boards really provide a lot of input and background that feed in to the staff so that they know what direction to go. And then the staff takes all of that community input and puts together programming for the community, or puts together guidance for council, so that we have better feedback from what people want and don't want. So we would love your help. And if you have any questions, please call Meredith. And her number is 303-335-4536. And this is always an exciting slide every fall. So during COVID-19, we had to make cuts. We didn't know how much our revenue would drop during COVID-19, and there was a lot of uncertainty. And one thing we had to cut, or that we chose to cut, was the community leaf collection. And boy, did that make everyone mad. So the community leaf collection, I am so happy to announce, is back this year. And we're very fortunate that we didn't do as bad as we thought we were going to do with our revenue, even though we did still have revenue last year. But I'm just so pleased to be able to restore the community-wide leaf collection, because it was very clear from community reaction that it was unacceptable to cut it. So it's back, hooray. And it will be at the Louisville Sports Complex from October 18th until November 20th. And just please remember that we don't take any bags there. So you can bring things over in a bag, but you need to empty your bag out, or you can bring things over in a bin and then empty your bin out. So just please don't leave your bins there. And it's only for leaves and grass clippings at that location. Now, there's lots of other choices, so don't worry if you have something other than that. If you're part of the municipal service, Tuesday and Wednesday customers can put leaves and branches out. They can put 20 compostable bags worth of leaves out and an unlimited number of bundles of shrubbery and limbs. They have to be 4 feet in length and no more than 18 inches in diameter, but those will get picked up right from your curb on that Saturday morning, October 30th. If you're a Thursday, Friday customer, then it's on Saturday, November 6th. So get those marked down on your calendar. And again, you can put 20 bags out and as many bundles of shrubbery and tree limbs as you would like. Now, if that's too big of a hassle, just remember, those types of materials can always go in your compost bin year round, so you don't have to wait. And then last up, as another option for branches, the branch recycle site is now going to be open during this fall season every weekend from 8 to 4. From October 2nd until November 7th. And so normally it's just the first Saturday of every month that it's open. We've extended the hours this fall for branch pickup. So there's a lot of options for you. You can just put things in your bin. You can put things out on your collection day for curbside pickup, or you can bring them over to these city sites. If you ever need mulch, remember that you can always pick up mulch from the branch recycle site. And if anyone's watching and they don't know where the branch recycle site is, it's next to the cemetery up at Empire Road and Highway 42. I'm coming close to the end here, so just continue marking your calendars, but Election Day is another thing I want everybody to mark down. It's November 2nd. There are candidate races and a local ballot issue that'll be on this fall. So for our local candidates in Ward 1, we have Keith Keller and Chris Lay running. In Ward 2, we have Maxine Most running. And in Ward 3, we have Kyle Brown running. And so there'll be an election with a candidate, and depending which ward you live in, you'll have a different choice on your ballot. Special news flash, be sure to tune in tomorrow at 6 p.m. for an electronic League of Women Voters candidate forum. So click on the city website and you'll be able to click a link to watch that candidate forum tomorrow. There's also a local ballot issue this fall. The City Council put forward a measure that's called 2A. It's a bond measure, and it concerns transportation improvements and underpasses. So you'll have a chance to decide if you'd like to provide some funding to be able to build some underpasses around town. So if you would like to take a look, there is information on the city website that is the informational packet about the bond measure, the council intention document about the bond measure, and the specific ballot language. So please do take a look at that to get all the information that you need to make your choice. The very most important thing city councilors do is to hire the city manager. The city manager is the chief administrator of the city, and council provides policy direction, but all the day-to-day direction, all of the carrying out of that policy is done by the city manager. And we're very, very lucky to have Megan Davis serving as our interim city manager right now. But we are in the process of searching for a permanent city manager. So starting October 1st, there'll be a nationwide recruitment that's launched. And then later in the fall, once we get candidates in and we get some finalists, we're going to have community open houses. And so that's another time we're going to need your help. So as has been done in the past, we need community members to come out and meet the candidates and really weigh in and provide input to council as to who's best fit for our community. So keep an eye out for around late November. That's when I would expect that the community interviews and open houses will start to occur. And then what kind of presentation in 2021 would be complete without talking about COVID, at least on one slide? And so I just want to let folks know that the Pfizer boosters are now open for people 65 and over. So go ahead and check that out. If anybody needs a ride, I'm happy to take you. There's currently a mask order in effect indoors, and the county's actually rewritten the order so that you can expect this mask order to sort of come and go for an indefinite period of time. And it really is dependent on the hospitalizations and the rate of spread of the disease. And so right now, COVID-19 is spreading at a rate in our county that is too high. And so we need this layered approach where people are vaccinated and wearing masks and washing hands. And if you're sick, you're staying home. So I know this is getting pretty long in the tooth, but I need everybody to stay at it. And so another thing you can do is you can get free at-home testing kits. You can find the info for that on the city website. And please do take advantage of that. Like if, let's say you are visiting your grandmother or, you know, taking someone to get their COVID shot, you might want to get tested before that just to make sure you're not asymptomatic and spreading the disease. So please do take advantage of those free at-home testing kits. If you're sick, please stay home. And I got my flu shot. No pain. It was great. And I was really happy to do it because right now the ICU capacities are not looking good in our entire country. And so anything you can do to help mitigate the chance that you'll need a hospital bed is worth doing. So I would encourage you to get your flu shot like I did. And I just want to thank you for doing your part. And so now I just kind of was warming you all up for whatever questions and comments you might have. And so if there are any things that are on your mind or things you'd like to talk about, I would love to hear from you. David. I think you can unmute yourself. There you go.
I've got a couple things, but before I address those, I just wanted to say how much I appreciated the underpass art in the McCaslin underpass. I think that's a great thing that we're doing there, and I really enjoyed seeing that.
Awesome.
You spoke earlier about the downtown zoning overlay. There was a project that I came to a meeting about, I guess kind of lost track. It might be pre-COVID, but had to do with looking at historical zoning in the city, because apparently the former director of planning didn't keep any records of how these zoning decisions were made. So we had like, I don't know, 8 or 10 different zoning areas that overlapped and conflicted and so on. I just wondered, where does that stand? Has that been resolved? Is that still happening? What's going on there?
Well, so I'm not 100% sure I know exactly what meeting you were attending. We did do some cleanup work on a number of issues. One of them was the office zone district, where we rezoned a few properties and got rid of one office zone district where there was conflicting districts. And we did some cleanup work around building height, where height was being calculated in a few different ways and it was causing confusion. So I'm not sure if that's exactly the project you're talking about, but I will follow up.
I know one of the issues was that different areas that appeared to have the same zoning classification had different setback requirements and different requirements about how much of the surface area could be used for outbuildings and those kinds of conflicts. And that was the fundamental thing that I took away from that meeting.
Yeah, so that has turned in, so that information has informed the process that we're in now, where we're identifying what the community would like to see for the lot coverages and setbacks in this particular zone district. So that conversation has fed into this conversation and is informing it.
Okay, great. And just as a side note, let's never name a park for the director of the area that didn't keep those records so that we knew what those zones were. The other question I had was regarding the library. We've had a lot of cutback in the library services and restriction on their hours. And I know part of this is staffing turnover. And I wondered, is there a more fundamental problem there? Has their budget been cut? What's going on in that respect?
So in 2020, their budget was cut, but it has been restored in 2021. And their hours were cut back, and it has been darn hard to hire people in 2021, not just for the library, but fundamentally, like you're talking about, it has been really hard to hire people to mow grass, people to cut trees, people to work at the library. And for example, we just got a new librarian to fill one of the positions, and she was with us for 2 weeks, and then she got another job as a librarian somewhere else that was more a better fit for her, so she left. So we are having that issue, and we're not alone. I'm also a member, I'm the chair of the Denver Regional Council of Governments, and they're seeing the same thing with staffing. And I'm a member of the Urban Drainage Flood Control District, and they're seeing the same thing with staffing. And when I talk to my colleagues on Metro Mayor's Caucus, all of the different mayors' communities are seeing the same thing with staffing, where there is a lot of burnout in public employees because COVID-19 has been really, really hard on public employees and what we've expected them to do in addition to their existing jobs, but also, so it's just been very, very hard. But then also there has been some hyperinflation. I don't know that it's actually categorized as hyperinflation, but very fast increases in salaries. And so we've done a salary study to try to get a hold of that and adjust people's salaries. Just last night, council gave direction to the city manager to put together a bonus program around retention to try to not lose more employees and address the issue. But on the library specifically, David, we did just recently announce that we're able to now restore some of the hours back to what they were. So it's starting in the right direction. I'm really hopeful with some of the things that Sharon, our library director, has done for us, but we're not quite out of the woods yet. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you very much.
If you guys know anybody, if anybody on this Zoom call, or if anybody who watches it afterward knows someone who would like to work for the city in some capacity, I would really encourage them to talk to our human resources director. Maybe you're retired, but you've always really thought it would be great to give back to the community. One way you could do that is by taking a job. I know that sounds a little strange, but we really could use the help. And it's not just our city. So maybe if you've always wished you could work for the city of Lafayette or Superior or Boulder County, there are jobs at every one of our agencies right now that we are just having a darn tough time filling. David, did you have another topic you wanted to bring up too?
No, you covered the things I was curious about. Thank you.
Thank you. And so we had a question from Alex, and it was just around commenting on the graffiti around town. There's been some very hateful graffiti in a number of different locations. It was reported about at the Catholic Church in downtown, but also there has been ongoing throughout the pandemic graffiti along the Brick Road on 287. And in Boulder County, there's been graffiti. And so what I would encourage community members to do is if you see graffiti, to go ahead and use what's called the City Problem Reporter. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just Google Louisville City Problem Reporter. And it's an online map where you can click and report all kinds of problems like graffiti and potholes or trees that need trimming or just kind of nuisance things. That's what the Problem Reporter is for. If you please report it to us right away. Graffiti is if it's on city property, graffiti is one of those things that you want to get rid of so it doesn't draw more graffiti. So we really do try to keep up with it. Now, keep in mind what I just said about staffing. We're having a darn tough time keeping all our positions filled, but we do try to really keep up with it. And just know that the police, if there's hate speech or other types of vandalism or things like that, they really do follow up and police beyond the obvious and use all kinds of technology to get after understanding who has, perpetrated crimes. And then it allows for a victim of a crime to be able to recover from that, whether that's getting the person to come and restore the area by painting it or something like that. So there's all kinds of restorative justice within our county. It doesn't mean someone's going to go away for life. It just means that there can be justice where someone takes responsibility if they've done something they ought not to. So please do report graffiti. I can't really say anything more about any ongoing police investigation, but just know that they do investigate these types of things beyond the obvious and continue to work on them until they're resolved. Alex, I don't know if that completely answered your question, and if you wanted to add to it, you can use the chat, or you're welcome to raise your hand as well. And then the last one I see in the chat right now is from Carol, and it's about updates where the metal fabricators are at Griffith, Cannon, Courtesy Road, and Short Street. And Carol, I'm just so sorry, I don't know exactly where you mean. Let me think about Griffith. I just feel like that's a lot of different locations. Carol, do you mind unmuting and just telling me a little bit more about what you're asking?
Okay, across the street, like right past the Louisville Tire, there's a metal fabricator. And we're in the Delo townhomes, and we were told when we moved in 3.5 years ago that those metal fabricators were going to be gone and that there would be retail and apartments there. And then about 1.5 years ago, we voted, there was a vote at the city council meeting to give them 1 year to get out instead of 3 years when there was an extension by the builder to do something else with that land. This is on. I know what
you're talking about now. Thanks, Carol. And so, yeah, there has been a land use application, but it has expired. And so they're going to need to come in and update it. My understanding is that's in the works. Do you mind emailing me so that I can have the planning director get in touch with you and your neighbors to let you know about more detail about where that is in the process and how you can weigh in?
Sure.
If you email me, then I'll have your email address, and I didn't want to put you on the spot to give it in front of everybody. So that would be great. And my email is Ashley, SASHLEYS @louisvilleco.gov. And so thanks for doing that, Carol, and we'll get in touch with you so you can participate in resolving that issue with us.
Thank you.
Dawn, it's great to hear from you. I'm sorry I can't see you all.
Hi, Ashley. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Hi, Don.
Thank you for your service to our community. 2 questions. I'm curious if there's anything that can be done to reduce the impact of Red Tail Ridge on our climate and traffic. And second, there was an accident on Polk at the pedestrian crossing yesterday. I was wondering if you know anything about that. I was wondering how those crossings are working out, if there are any changes planned. Thanks.
Thanks, Don. I'll start with the easier question, which is the traffic one. And so I did not know about the accident at Polk, and I'm really sorry to hear that. I can tell you we've continued to measure. So Don's asking about, you've probably seen these different configurations for traffic around town. And the idea behind them is that it will slow traffic down, because if you think about Newton's law, F equals ma, force is mass times acceleration, and you really don't want a car to hit a person with much force. And we can't change the mass of the car, but we can change the speed they're traveling at. And so if we can slow people down to the speed limit when there are accidents, and I wish there were never accidents, but when there are, they're less fatal. And so we're really trying to get people to drive the speed limit. If everybody could do that for us, that would be awesome. In fact, I think I have a backup slide in here to that effect. So we have measured before we put those installations in that basically have pedestrian refugee little spaces for the pedestrians to stand, or they have narrowed down the street so the pedestrians are in the street for a shorter period of time. And we measured the car speeds before we put them in, and we measured them after, and we've measured them again now that they've been in for a while. And we have seen that there is a reduction in the speed people are going. And so they're working as they were intended. And making it so people slow down and the pedestrians are safer in the crossing. Now, we have heard from cyclists that in some places they felt like they were making cars go too close to the cyclists. So like you'll see on Washington where we're putting one in, the configuration's a little bit different, but we can only do that configuration where there's not on-street parking. So on a lot of streets, there's not enough space for a bike lane, a travel lane, and a parking lane, because that would take up a lot of width. And so what happens is what's called a share-row. It's kind of a silly name, but it's a shared area where cars and bicycles have to share the space. And that's just because there's not enough footprint there for everyone. And so where there's a share-row, there's a parking space. And that means like it's someone's home. So maybe their guests are parked there, or maybe they have an extra car that's parked on the street. And the bike and the car have to share that space. And so they really do have to yield to one another and follow the model traffic code properly. I would love it if they would put driver's ed back in school, because I think a lot of people don't know what the rules of the road are, but I don't have control over that. So I would just encourage everybody to slow down and be alert. And this is one of those things, when you have a block party, this would be a great topic for the block party, is for people to talk about this, because there's a lot of different feelings around this in the community. And so this is a great thing to talk to your neighbors about. Another thing we can all do to make it better is if you can switch out driving trips for walking and bicycling around town, it can make a big difference because it lowers the number of people on the road, it lowers the temperature of traffic. And so the more we can all switch our trips out, the better it is for reducing carbon emissions and for making a more pleasant experience for everyone else walking and biking. So now to your harder question, and then I'll come back to you, Don, and see if I answered them both. So Red Tail Ridge is a land use hearing, and city council is this really strange thing where we sit in multiple roles as council members. Sometimes we're legislators. So like that dark sky thing I talked about, I can talk to all of you. I can talk to everybody in the community and get as much input as I can. And that's what I should do, because I am trying to get community input so that I represent the community well. And so that's our legislative role. In other roles, we're quasi judges, so it's called quasi judicial role. And council members have to weigh an application or someone's proposal against the rules or laws that are on the books. And so that is what the Red Tail Ridge hearing is. And we're still in the hearing, even though we voted, because an ordinance doesn't take place until 30 days after the council votes on it. And what that allows is community members to have enough time to refer a measure to the voters. So that's really what that 30-day period is for. So I'm still acting in the judicial role, but I can tell you as sort of a matter of fact what council has done to this point, but I can't tell you about my opinions on it or really take much dialogue back and forth. So as a matter of fact, council has voted to approve Red Tail Ridge, but with a number of conditions. And so the conditions that council put on it include things like 3 megawatts of solar on site, buildings over 10,000 square feet are LEED silver. There will be a transportation demand management plan for the office buildings. All of the HVAC and water heating will be done with electric and not use fossil fuels. I'm just trying to remember off the top of my head. You can go online and read them all. There's about 14 conditions that were added. And it was through much debate and dialogue. And so if you have other questions about that or want to understand where we are in the process and what the next steps are, I would encourage you to reach out to the planning director, Rob Zucchero, or I can have him email you if you wanted to know things beyond what I've been able to say here tonight. Does that get after what you're looking for, Don?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
Do you have any other feedback on the transportation improvements?
No, I think they're an improvement. I was worried about the bicyclist and just curious about that accident.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but I'll follow up and see. I'll ask about the police report on that. Thanks for letting us know, Don. And I'm just sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
So one last question that I see in the chat, is there going to be trick-or-treating this year? And yes, there is. So there was trick-or-treating last year. We're learning more every day about how the virus is spread, how it's not spread, how to be safe, how to not be safe. And trick-or-treating is outside. So it's a pretty good activity, as it turns out. And there was a lot of creativity with Halloween last year, with people putting out prepackaged bags and coming up with like chutes so that they could stay away from one another and have like a touchless trick or treat. So if you feel more comfortable doing those things again this year, that would be fantastic. But staying outside it is really great. And it looks like Gloria might have more on what we're going to put out as the official suggestions and guidelines around trick-or-treating. And Gloria, I don't know if you can unmute, but you're welcome to chime in if you know more about what we'll put out for the official guidelines.
Thanks, Ashley. I'm not sure yet. They came very late in the day last year, but at the moment, Boulder County Public Health and the CDC have been pretty comfortable with outdoor activities. So as you say, I'm not expecting really anything except, to say that probably around using your judgment and risk assessment. And if you are going to be close to people, even if you are outdoors, and if you're under the age of, if someone can't be vaccinated, then they might want to consider wearing a mask, which is, the guidance at the moment. I was actually just typing that we have some outdoor programming from the city throughout the month of October and for Halloween, and you can see it at louisvilleco.gov/calendar.
Awesome. Thank you very much. That's fantastic. Does anyone else have anything they want to talk about this evening? Let's see, David.
Yeah, you made me think of a couple more things. Talking about the speed actions we've taken. There's a speed display on McCaslin Boulevard, northbound, at more or less as you come up the side of the mesa. But there's also one on the southbound lane, just south of South Boulder Road, which has not worked for about, 4 years maybe. And I wondered why we didn't care what speed they were going southbound if we cared what speed they were going northbound.
So David, will you just tell me, it's on McCaslin going southbound on the hill?
No, it's actually just about a quarter of a mile south of South Boulder Road.
Okay, great. We'll get that fixed. Thanks for letting me know. That's the perfect type of thing to plug into the city problem reporter.
Okay, I didn't think about that. The other thing, I'm just curious, who gets to choose the street names for a new development like Red Tail Ridge?
The person who owns the property submits a plan that has names of streets and names the area and things like that. If community members have strong feelings about those things, that would be a great thing to weigh in with during a public hearing.
Well, I've told the developer years, this has been going on a while now, but I told him at one time I thought it was important to maintain the names tape drive and disk drive. I think they're historically significant. Okay, I'll see if I can't get that in somewhere. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, David. Not only historically significant, but just really clever if you think about it. I think that it's kind of cool to see that when you come into town. Alex?
Thanks, Ashley. I want to jump on all the traffic stuff. There's the pedestrian crosswalk on South Boulder Road going downhill near maybe Washington Street. Do you know the one I'm talking about?
Yes, at Eisenhower.
Yep. that one's scary for me as a driver, that if I'm coming downhill and I stop for a pedestrian, and let's say I'm in the right lane and the pedestrian is going north, which I think is north direction. I've had multiple times where I'll stop for the pedestrian, but the person in the left lane comes shooting down and doesn't stop, and I have to like pump my horn to keep the pedestrian from continuing across and getting hit. Is there, with the new transportation stuff that we're trying to get done, would there be an underpass there, or is there, if that isn't part of it, could we get flashing lights there for the pedestrians so they're safer?
We are putting in what's called a hawk signal right there, and it's totally designed, and the schedule was supposed to have it done by the end of the year. We do have a delay on the steel because every single supply chain in the entire world is messed up right now, but we still think we're on track within the next 3 to 6 months to have the hawk signal in. And the hawk signal is just like the traffic signal that is on the far east side of South Boulder Road, right by the North End neighborhood. So what it is a traffic light that actually turns red when the pedestrian pushes the button. And so all of the traffic will get a red light, and then it will flash red, and people are not meant to go until the person is cleared from the crosswalk. So
that's fantastic. Thank you so much for doing that. I won't have to worry about people getting killed while I'm driving. So I really appreciate that.
The locations that are identified for that, and also for the underpass ballot measure, are locations that community members have identified and where people literally are hit on an ongoing basis. And so it's very, like Dawn bringing up the accident where the bicyclist was hit. There are other accidents and stories like that of kids going to school, doing these routes to school, or going to the bus stop and literally being hit. And so that's where these improvements come from. They come from suggestions just like this in a community meeting. And that one there, we've been working on for a little bit of time, and I'm happy to say it's coming. I wish it was coming sooner, but it's coming as quick as we can. But there is a tiny bit of good news. In the meantime, the Denver Regional Council of Governments was nice enough to give us another flasher, just like the one David was talking about, that kind of says your speed is the speed is, you know, so you're driving by and there's like a speed radar that you get told what it is from the solar light. So we're actually putting those in, and those will be in before the final installation is done. And they're testing something out, and they're going to get some media coverage around it. And it's a program that the Denver Regional Council of Governments is doing that's called Stop Slow Speeding. And what it is about is that if you look at traffic fatalities, they happen a lot of the time, and I forget the exact percentages, but this campaign will tell us, when people are speeding in that, like, you're supposed to be going 30 and you're going 40, or you're supposed to be going 25 and you're going 35. And in those scenarios, people don't really feel like they're speeding. And so it's called slow speeding, but those are really fatal situations. And so the speed radars that are getting put in will signal to people when they're going above the speed limit that they are driving a fatal speed. And so there'll be some news coverage on that on the local news channels, and there'll be some newspaper outreach that we do to try to get coverage. And I see that our local hometown paper and the Daily Camera is on today, so maybe they'll stay tuned for that story also. But it should help people identify that, you know, you might think you're just going 5 miles an hour over, but if you're driving a car, which is very massive, going back to F equals MA, and you're going 10 miles faster than you're meant to, and you hit a student on a bike, it is a deadly and fatal possibility. So hopefully those get installed pretty soon here, and that should signal to people again that, hey, I'm not supposed to be going this quick. I need to slow down. Don? I think you can unmute yourself. Don, did you want to say something? Okay, sorry, Don, I can't hear you. I am happy to chat by phone or connect over email too. Sorry about that. And if you can unmute, then go ahead and do that. Anybody else have any other comments? All right, well, I just want to thank everybody very, very much for coming tonight and all of the comments and discussion. And if you think of anything or you didn't feel comfortable talking online, then please do just go ahead and email me. And again, you can email the whole council at the email that's on the screen right now, or you're welcome to email me at ashley@louisvilleco.gov. And I just want to thank everybody so much. Have a great evening.